What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is the segment on my channel where I pick a film from the Criterion collection or streaming on the Criterion channel and recommend it to you and give my thoughts on the film. And today's film I'm very excited to discuss because it is from the great Martin Scorsese, and I have not seen every film in Martin's catalog. And what the great thing about Martin Scorsese is, no matter what movie in his catalog you pick, you don't really know what to expect other than to be entertained. And this movie in particular, I've heard a ton about over the years, and I've been really excited to check it out. And this is physically available in the Criterion collection, and it's also currently streaming on the Criterion channel. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is After Hours. After Hours is directed by Martin Scorsese. An ordinary word processor has the worst night of his life after he agrees to visit a girl in SoHo whom he met that evening at a coffee shop. So I knew the premise of this film before I went in to watch it. I've read a lot about it over the years, but I hadn't sat down and checked it out. And this movie was hilarious. It was anxiety inducing, and it was a ton of fun. I did not know what to expect with this movie, and it has similarities to some of Scorsese's other work, but it's also very different. And you could tell just structurally, and the film's tone is very different than a lot of Scorsese's other early work, and I'm excited to talk to you about the film today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Paul Hackett, played by Griffin Dunne, who is a word processor, and he gets off work one night, he goes to his apartment, he ends up going to this coffee shop and sitting down reading a book and drinking coffee, and he meets Marcy, played by Rosanna Arquette, and the two of them hit it off and have a conversation in the coffee shop, and she starts telling him about this friend that she has who creates this plaster of Paris artwork, and that she thinks that he would be really interested in it. And so she ends up giving him her number, and he goes home and he calls her on the phone. He ends up talking to the artist in the apartment, and he says, "Hey, is she home?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's here right now." And he says, "Hey, I'll come over and visit you." So he goes over there and he visits her, and after the two of them spend some time together and decide to go out on the town together, his night progressively gets worse and worse. And the series of events throughout his evening and the decisions that he makes causes him to get in a set of circumstances that is just incomprehensible, honestly. And it's just spending the evening with this one character and seeing the negative events that occur around him. So as I said, I thought this movie was a riot. It was super funny and really over the top in moments, but it's also incredibly anxiety inducing. I saw a lot of comparisons in some modern reviews to the Safdie brothers' Uncut Gems, and I can definitely see that. It's a character who isn't necessarily the most likable human being, who is put in a situation where his decision that he makes puts him in worse circumstances, and you just feel like he's never doing the right thing to kind of get himself out of trouble, and so the night continues to spiral out of control. I think Griffin Dunne is excellent as the lead in this movie. I'm a huge fan of An American Werewolf in London, which is where I know him from originally, but he is great in this movie. He is hilarious. He has his charming moments, and what's funny about his character is he has some really likable spots, but there's also some decisions that he makes that you just feel like he's a really terrible person. Like his reason for wanting to get away from this girl is that he thinks that she's a burn victim, and it's just really awful to think that he's like so willing to get away from her when he sees this book that she's treating these burns on her body. And he's just really awful in those moments, but he has some funny and charming moments that make him really likable. And this film has an insane cast of characters. There are so many character actors in this film that you're familiar with. I mean, Catherine O'Hara shows up in this movie, who I absolutely love. She's not in it for a super long amount of time, but while she is in it, she is incredible. Cheech and Chong are in this movie. They play a small role, but while they're in it, they're really funny. Even John Hurd, the dad from Home Alone, so you get him and Catherine O'Hara in the same movie, which was really funny to see the two of them working together prior to Home Alone. But he's great in this film. Everyone who shows up in this is wonderful. This thing has fantastic cinematography that creates really unnerving suspense in moments. The comedy so seamlessly flows with the drama in this film, and I think you feel the suspense for this character, but you also kind of laugh at him because he puts himself in a lot of these situations, and so you're not necessarily feeling bad bad for him, but you think it's hilarious what is occurring around him. And the cinematography really paints the picture of this nightlife in a way that just comes to life. Scorsese always does an amazing job at really creating atmosphere and ambiance in his films that just suck you in, and you get to see this person just living out his life over one night. And because there's so much life in the cinematography and in the world that Scorsese creates, it's really easy to immerse yourself in the film, and the things just get wackier and wackier as the night goes on. And there really isn't much to the movie other than a cautionary tale of not being an asshole to other people, and that possibly being an asshole can put you in a worse situation. But it's also funny the types of people that he runs into over the night, and there are some genuinely crazy people that he comes into contact with. And I just really like it a lot because the humor is incredibly offbeat and strange. Some of it reminded me of like the dark comedy elements of The King of Comedy, which that movie has some very serious, dramatic moments. But there's also some really playful comedic elements in that film. And I think Scorsese really went full force comedy in this movie, which I didn't expect from him, but it made the movie incredibly enjoyable. And it's just one of those things that you go in and you experience it. From a lot of the initial reviews of this movie, I felt like it was going to be really high octane and suspenseful. And it's not. A lot of it is dialogue driven. It's very refined, but it's still suspenseful because you're wondering what's going to happen to this person next. And I did not expect where it was going to go in the third act. And I really appreciate that a lot about this movie. And I do think early on in the film, it took a little bit to kind of settle in and for me to be really immersed. But once it got going, I was completely hooked and I enjoyed the entire experience for the remainder of the film. And I think if you're looking for a Scorsese film that's really kind of out of the norm of the types of movies that he normally makes, this is a really great one to check out. I had a ton of fun with it and I'm really looking forward to watching it again. So have you seen After Hours? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was super entertaining, a whole lot of fun, and I can't wait to watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.